Hi Reddit. I never thought I'd be posting here, but something happened last weekend that made me realize my entire family still sees me as the same kid they ignored growing up. For context, I'm Ethan, 21M, a software engineer. I graduated early and have been working remotely for about 2 years now. I also build apps and do freelance contracts on the side. My family doesn't know any of that, not because I'm hiding it intentionally, they just never ask. My parents are Robert, 52M, and Linda, 50F. I have two siblings, Jessica, 27F, the golden child, Ryan, 24M, the athlete who could do no wrong. And then there was me, the quiet kid. Growing up, the favoritism wasn't even subtle. Jessica wanted piano lessons. She got them. Ryan wanted a private basketball coach. Done. When I asked for a $20 programming book in high school, my dad told me, computers are a waste of time. Go outside. So I downloaded PDFs instead. When I was 16, I asked my parents if I could get a used laptop so I could learn programming properly. My mom said we couldn't afford it. 2 weeks later, Ryan got a $900 gaming console because he deserved it for basketball season. I ended up buying my first laptop myself with money from a part-time job at a grocery store. It was a cracked $120 secondhand ThinkPad. That laptop changed my life. I learned Python, JavaScript, and eventually started building small websites for local businesses. My first client paid me $200. It felt like winning the lottery. When I was 18, I got accepted into a computer science program with a partial scholarship. My parents' reaction, my dad literally said, "That's nice, but don't expect us to pay for anything." They didn't attend my graduation. Jessica had a huge party when she finished her marketing degree. I had a quiet dinner alone with a burger and fries, but I kept working. Freelance coding, internships. By 20, I had a full-time remote job with a US company. Salary $115,000 per year, which for someone living cheaply and investing most of it adds up quickly. Here's the weird part. I never told them, not because I wanted to hide it, but because every time I mentioned coding or work, my dad would say things like, "That internet stuff isn't a real career." So eventually I stopped trying to explain. Whenever they asked what I was doing, I'd just say, "Working online," which they interpreted as probably struggling. They never asked for details. 3 weeks ago, I got a call from my mom, which was unusual. We talk maybe once every few months. She sounded stressed. "Ethan, we need to talk about something important." Turns out Ryan had gotten into financial trouble. Big trouble. Apparently, he tried to start a gym business with some friends. It failed. He now owes around $40,000, and somehow my parents decided that I should help. They invited me over for dinner. When I arrived, everyone was there. Mom, Dad, Jessica, Ryan. The atmosphere was weirdly formal. After about 10 minutes of awkward small talk, my dad got straight to the point. "Ryan needs help. Family supports family." Ryan avoided eye contact the entire time. Jessica chimed in. "You're good with computers. Maybe you can do something online to help." I asked what they meant. My mom said, "We were thinking you could take a small loan for Ryan, just until he gets back on his feet. A loan for $40,000. My dad added, "You don't have many expenses, right? You still rent a small place." I just sat there processing what I was hearing. They assumed I had nothing going on, that I was the least successful sibling, so naturally I should sacrifice for the favorite. Ryan finally spoke. "Look, man, I know you're not doing great right now, but this would really help me." Not doing great, I almost laughed. I make more money than all three of them combined, but they genuinely thought I was the struggling one, because that's the role I had growing up, the invisible kid. I told them I couldn't do it. Simple as that. My dad immediately got angry. "Unbelievable. Your brother needs help and you're being selfish." Jessica said, "You've always been like this, Ethan. You never cared about family." That comment stung, because growing up, I was the one who tried the hardest. I was the one who showed up to everyone's events. No one ever showed up for me. My mom started crying. "Classic move. We sacrificed so much raising you kids." I wanted to say, "You sacrificed for two kids," but I stayed quiet. Then my dad said something that honestly made me lose respect for him permanently. "Ryan has potential. He just needs a second chance. Unlike you, he actually tried to do something with his life." Something with my life, right? Here's where things got interesting. My phone buzzed while we were arguing. A notification from my bank. A payment from a freelance client? $12,500. Ryan happened to glance at the screen. His eyes widened. "Wait, was that $12,000? The room went silent. My mom asked, "Ethan, what was that?" I realized the secret was basically out, so I told them. Not bragging, just facts. I explained that I've been working remotely as a software engineer, that I also run some apps and freelance projects, that I'm doing fine financially, very fine. Jessica's jaw literally dropped. Ryan looked confused. My dad said, "How much are you actually making?" I hesitated but answered honestly. My salary, the freelance income, my savings. The room went completely silent. Then my mom said the most unbelievable thing. "So you can help Ryan. Not we're proud of you. Not we didn't realize." Just that. That's when I finally said what I'd been holding in for years. I reminded them about the laptop, the scholarship, the graduation they didn't attend, the times they told me computers were pointless. Then I said, "You didn't invest in me when I needed it. You don't get returns now." My dad called me ungrateful. Ryan said I was overreacting. Jessica said I was weaponizing success. But honestly, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the invisible kid anymore. Dinner ended early, very early. My dad told me to leave if I wasn't going to help, so I did. Ryan texted me later saying I should at least lend him something. I didn't respond. Since then, the family group chat has been quiet, except for my mom sending guilt trip messages like, "Family should forgive." But here's the thing. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. 2 days ago, my cousin Daniel, 30M, called me. Apparently, my family had been telling relatives that I'm rich, but refusing to help Ryan. Daniel laughed and said, "They're leaving out the part where they ignored you your entire life. Turns out more people notice the favoritism than I thought." I'm 21. I have a career I built myself, savings I earned myself, and freedom I fought for myself. My family still sees the kid they overlooked. But that kid doesn't exist anymore. Am I the asshole for refusing to bail out the brother my parents always chose over me? Because honestly, for the first time in my life, I chose myself. So a lot happened after my last post. I honestly expected things to cool down. Maybe a few passive-aggressive texts from my mom, maybe my dad ignoring me for a few months like he usually does. Instead, the situation escalated in a way I did not expect, and it started with Jessica. About 4 days after the dinner disaster, I got a call from my sister Jessica, 27F, which was strange because Jessica only calls when she needs something. Her tone was completely different from the dinner. Very friendly, almost sweet. "Hey, Ethan, I was thinking about what happened the other night." I said, "Okay." Then she said, "I think Dad was a little harsh. We didn't realize you were doing so well." That was the first time anyone in my family acknowledged it. But it lasted about 5 seconds because immediately after that she said, "But you know Ryan is still your brother." There it was. I asked what she wanted. Jessica sighed dramatically. "Look, Ryan is panicking. If he doesn't pay at least $15,000 soon, things could get legal." Legal? Apparently the gym business involved private investors, people who expected their money back. Ryan had personally guaranteed some of the loans, meaning they could go after him directly. Jessica then pitched what she called a fair solution. Her words. She suggested that I loan Ryan $15,000 to settle the immediate pressure, but here's the part that made me laugh. She said, "You could write up some computer contract thing, so he pays you back later." Like she had just invented the concept of a loan agreement. I asked her a simple question. Did Ryan ask me himself? Silence. Then she admitted something interesting. Ryan didn't want to ask me because he was embarrassed, but apparently not embarrassed enough to let everyone else pressure me. The real reason they called eventually, Jessica slipped up and revealed something important. My parents had been telling relatives about my income. Not the exact numbers, but enough. Apparently, my dad told my uncle, "Ethan makes ridiculous tech money but refuses to help family." So now I was officially the selfish rich kid in the family narrative. Which is ironic considering they spent most of my life acting like I was the least successful one. I told Jessica the same thing I told my parents. I wasn't giving Ryan money. Her tone flipped instantly. The friendliness vanished. "You're seriously going to watch your brother get sued?" I told her that Ryan was 24 years old, not 14. He chose to start a business. Businesses fail. That's how reality works. Jessica then said something that honestly made my stomach drop. "You wouldn't even have this money if mom and dad didn't raise you." That sentence right there summed up my entire childhood. Everything I accomplished somehow belonged to them, even though they had actively discouraged the thing that made me successful. That night, the family group chat exploded. Ryan finally spoke, first message he ever sent about the situation. "I heard you're refusing to help me. No greeting. No explanation, just accusation." I replied. I'm not responsible for your business. Ryan sent back. Easy to say when you're sitting on hundreds of thousands, and that's when I realized something. They had been speculating about my finances behind my back. My mom then chimed in, Ethan, please, even $10,000 would help. Then my dad, you owe your family support. The messages just kept coming. At some point, I stopped replying. But one thing kept bothering me. The numbers. Ryan supposedly owed $40,000, but now they were asking for $15,000, then $10,000. That kind of shifting usually means one thing. Someone is hiding the real amount. So I called the one person in my family who tends to be honest. My cousin Daniel, 30M. Daniel works in finance. He had actually helped Ryan review the gym business plan months earlier. And according to him, the debt isn't $40,000. It's closer to $90,000. Apparently, the investors had put in way more money than my parents realized. Ryan had personally signed documents guaranteeing part of it, meaning if things go bad, they could take him to court, which explains why my family suddenly became desperate. That phone call made something click for me. They weren't asking me to help. They were trying to make me the financial safety net. If I gave them $10,000 or $15,000 now, it wouldn't stop. There would be another crisis, another payment, another family emergency, and I would become the quiet kid again, just this time with a wallet attached. Yesterday evening, something happened that pushed the situation even further. Someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it, and there stood Ryan. He had driven 2 hours to get to my place. First time he's ever visited me. He looked exhausted and honestly scared. Ryan didn't start with anger. He started with something I didn't expect. I messed up. He explained that the gym idea looked great on paper, but construction costs exploded. One partner backed out. Another investor demanded repayment early. Now everything was collapsing. Then he said something that made the whole situation even more complicated. Dad said you have enough money to fix this. Fix it. Like I was some kind of financial reset button. I asked Ryan something I had never asked him before. Did you ever think about helping me growing up? He looked confused, so I reminded him, the laptop, the scholarship, the graduation, all the times he got support while I got lectures. Ryan didn't deny any of it. He just said, that was mom and dad, not me, which might be true, but he never objected either. Ryan then asked me directly, can you lend me $20,000? Not invest, not partner, just lend. No timeline, no repayment plan, just trust. I told him no, not because I hate him, but because this isn't my responsibility. Ryan sat there quietly for about a minute. Then he said something unexpected. You know, Dad thinks you owe him, right? Apparently my father believes that because he raised me, I should financially support the family now that I'm successful, which feels less like family and more like a retirement plan I never agreed to. Ryan left without arguing, but before he left, he said one thing that's been stuck in my head. You know this is going to tear the family apart. Maybe it will. Maybe it already has. But here's the truth. My family didn't break because I refused to give money. It broke years ago when they decided some kids were worth investing in and one wasn't. Because this morning I woke up to something I definitely didn't expect. A message from a lawyer. And the subject line included my name. I have no idea how I got dragged into this. But apparently the situation with Ryan's business is about to get a lot worse. All right, Reddit, buckle up. Part 3 is where everything blows up. The family drama escalated from guilt trips and passive-aggressive texts into legal chaos. So I wake up this morning, bleary-eyed, and see an email from a law firm. The subject line, notice regarding Ryan Thompson, immediate action required. Ryan, my 24-year-old brother. I open it, and my jaw drops. Apparently, Ryan's investors, yes, the same ones he borrowed money from for his failed gym business, had filed a lawsuit. But here's the kicker. They listed me as a potential co-obligor. Why me? The email explained, as a close family member and potential beneficiary of the defendant's success, the court may consider Ethan Thompson to have financial responsibility in this matter. I read it twice. I'm 21, living in my small apartment, and suddenly I'm legally implicated in Ryan's $90,000 debt. I called Ryan immediately. He sounded panicked. I didn't know they'd do that. I told him calmly, Ryan, you personally signed the agreements. You involved yourself. I didn't sign anything. He stammered, but Dad, Mom, they thought you could just help. This was it, the ultimate proof that my parents had been manipulating everyone into thinking I owed them money. Of course, after the email, my parents started blowing up my phone. Mom, Ethan, you have to help. It's family. Dad, we raised you. You can afford this. Jessica, don't make this worse, Ethan. Just lend him something. I didn't answer. Instead, I drafted a formal email to the law firm. I have not signed any agreements. I have no legal obligation. Please remove my name as a party. Thank you. Boom, straightforward, no guilt. Later that evening, Jessica tried face-to-face manipulation. She came to my apartment with tears in her eyes. Ethan, I'm begging you. You can fix this. You're the only one who can. I stayed calm. Jessica, Ryan made his choices. I didn't. I didn't co-sign. I didn't encourage him to borrow that money. I am not responsible. She froze. Then she said something that made me realize just how toxic this family dynamic had been. You've always been selfish, Ethan. Now it matters. I finally realized all my life, they tried to make me feel invisible, and now they're trying to make me feel guilty for surviving. About an hour later, Ryan texted me. I get it now. I can't rely on you. I have to handle this myself. I didn't reply. I just let him figure it out. Because here's the truth. He never had to struggle alone before. My parents had always swooped in. But I didn't. I'd never swoop in. Fast forward a few days. The lawyer confirmed my name was removed from the lawsuit. Ryan is now being sued personally, which means he's fully responsible. My parents have been quiet, probably realizing their manipulations failed. Jessica has stopped contacting me. I think she's processing the fact that she can't guilt me anymore. Here's the crazy part. For the first time in my life, I feel untouchable in terms of family expectations. The kid who got ignored, the backup child, the one who was told computers were a waste of time, the one they all assumed would fail is now the one they cannot touch, manipulate, or guilt. I feel free. And honestly, it's liberating. Ryan is in trouble. My family is furious. But me? I'm building my life. I'm coding. I'm designing apps. I'm saving. I'm investing. And most importantly, I no longer need their validation, their approval, or their permission to exist and thrive. All right, here's how things unfolded in the months after the lawsuit incident. Spoiler, it got even messier, but also satisfying. Ryan's gym business completely fell apart. Investors went after him personally. Bank accounts were frozen temporarily. Credit ruined. And worst of all, my parents totally blamed me in their conversations with relatives. But Ryan, he eventually admitted the truth privately. I shouldn't have involved you. You've done nothing wrong. It felt good to hear him say that, even if it took months. He's now working odd jobs to pay off the debts, humbled and embarrassed. Jessica, the golden child, tried to meddle financially with Ryan during the lawsuit. She sent him money behind my back without my knowledge, but it backfired. The court flagged it as attempted interference. Ryan got frustrated and confronted her. Jessica realized her manipulations didn't work. She's now in a weird position where all the family favorites are scrambling while I just exist. Here's the ironic part. My parents had to face their own failures as parents. My dad's big "you owe the family" lectures ended up looking like manipulative guilt trips to outsiders. My mom's constant favoritism became obvious to extended relatives. Even some of my uncle's friends told them, gently, Ethan built his life himself. Maybe step back and let him live. Basically, their plan to guilt me into bailing out Ryan completely backfired. Meanwhile, my life, totally normal. My software work is thriving. I released a small app that went viral, think thousands of downloads. My savings have grown. I travel, learn new skills, and invest in projects I care about. The freedom I felt after saying no to their manipulations is unmatched. The weirdest thing? The family dynamic completely flipped. Ryan is respectful, but keeps his distance. Jessica stopped trying to guilt me. Mom and Dad occasionally text, but mostly in a neutral check-in tone. No guilt, no pressure. For the first time, I dictate the boundaries. I'm no longer the backup kid. I'm Ethan, independent and untouchable by their favoritism or manipulation. A few weeks ago, during a distant relative's reunion, my family tried to casually bring me up as the rich, selfish kid. But here's the twist. Everyone at the reunion had already heard from other relatives about how my success was entirely self-made. My parents' attempts to manipulate the story failed publicly. I didn't need to say a word. Their narrative collapsed on its own. I'm now quietly the one everyone secretly respects, even if they're too polite to say it to my parents. It was late summer, about 6 months after the lawsuit fiasco. My extended family had organized a reunion at my aunt's house, a sprawling place with a pool, big backyard, and plenty of space for chaos. I almost didn't go. Honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to deal with my parents and siblings in public. But I went anyway, mostly to see my cousins and nieces and nephews. As soon as I walked in, I felt the energy shift. My parents were already hovering near the food table, whispering nervously to each other. Jessica gave me a forced smile, clearly trying to gauge how I was going to behave in front of relatives. Ryan avoided my eyes completely, standing awkwardly near the backyard swing set. Meanwhile, everyone else was mingling, laughing, and catching up. And that's when I noticed the subtle glances. People were whispering, nodding toward me, trying not to stare. Apparently, the family narrative had leaked my success, my independence, and how I refused to bail out Ryan. My cousin Daniel, the finance guy, intercepted me. "Ethan, glad you came. Everyone's curious." Curious? That's an understatement. People kept subtly asking how I got my career, my projects, my lifestyle. And I answered casually as if it were no big deal. "Yeah, I run a few apps, do some freelance contracts, invest a bit here and there." Pretty standard stuff. The reactions were priceless. Mouths dropped. Eyebrows shot up. My parents shifted uncomfortably, realizing they couldn't control the narrative anymore. Later, Jessica tried to step in, smoothing things over for the family's sake. "Ethan's always been ambitious, you know? He's doing well." But everyone had already pieced it together from Daniel, other cousins, and even neighbors who knew I freelanced remotely. The attempt to minimize me completely failed. Ryan finally approached me quietly by the pool. "Hey, I just wanted to say, I get it now. You didn't owe me or anyone anything." I smiled. "Yeah, you're learning that the hard way." It wasn't gloating, it was truth delivered gently, and it was satisfying to see him finally own his mistakes without needing me to fix them. The funniest part? My parents' reactions. They tried to reclaim control, whispering loudly, "Ethan, we're proud of you." Really proud. But everyone around them was already laughing quietly, knowing the truth. They didn't support me growing up. They tried to manipulate me during the lawsuit, and now they had no power to guilt me. It was subtle, but you could see the humiliation on their faces. I didn't make a big announcement. I didn't brag. I simply existed, smiling and chatting casually, answering questions and letting everyone else do the rest. By the end of the night, my cousins were genuinely impressed. My parents were humbled. Ryan had a tiny shred of respect for me. Jessica, well, she finally stopped trying to manipulate me in front of everyone. The invisible kid, no longer invisible. The backup child, completely irrelevant. The quiet success story, center of subtle admiration without lifting a finger. Sometimes the best way to show your family what they underestimated isn't to argue, lecture, or flaunt your achievements. It's to live your life fully, confidently, and unapologetically, and let them realize the truth on their own. If you've been the overlooked, ignored, or underestimated child in your family, know this. Your worth is not determined by them. Your success is yours, no matter how invisible they made you feel. And sometimes the ultimate revenge isn't money, confrontation, or proving them wrong. It's simply thriving while they watch, helpless, as you live your best life. If you've been the invisible kid in your family or felt like no one believed in you, you know this. Your life is yours to build. Not theirs, not your parents, not your siblings.